Hey everybody, it's your girl Tasja, and this is the launching of Talking with Tasja. I am so excited that you guys are here. Um, just gonna wait for some people to come on in. Meantime, when you come in, just say hi. Welcome. Hey everybody, thank you so much for coming in. When you come in, just say hi. Let me see where you're from. And don't forget to share. Wait for people to come in. When you guys come in, just say hi. Don't be shy. Just let me know where you're from. We are on YouTube. We are on Facebook for No More Secrets and my personal page. So I just want to thank everybody for coming in to the launching of Talking with Tasha. Those of you who do not know, my name is Tasha. I am the CEO and founder of No More Secrets. It's a nonprofit where I deal with domestic violence in the church. I am also the founder of Naturally Classy. It's a natural skin and hair care line that I make. I am also the founder and CEO of Naturally Classy Consulting, where I help people turn their hobbies into businesses. So I'm really excited for you all to join us today. And so tonight, I'm going to be sharing my experience with uh, domestic violence. October is the month of domestic violence awareness. And so tonight, I'm going to just share my experience. Some of you have already heard bits and pieces of my testimony. And so tonight, you're going to get the raw deal of it. Um, that's the reason why I started No More Secrets. It's a topic that no one really talks about in the church. Um, More than half of the members have experienced it, but it's definitely uh, a topic nobody really talks about. Hey, Kalicia, thank you for joining. Um, so let's go back. Uh, 2013, my family was attacked. Um, my aunt's ex-husband broke into our house with a brick and assaulted my grandmother and my aunt, hit them both in the head. They both now have permanent dents in their skulls. My aunt was also hit in her face. And when the EMS came, they said my house looked like the scene of a movie. And there was blood everywhere. There was it was a 3-floor house, so there was blood on 2 out of 3 of the floors. My grandmother lost a pint of blood before she even reached the hospital. Um, that that single situation um, introduced me to what I now know as domestic violence third party. And so I know my grandmother's been telling the same testimony over and over again. You know, God saved me because, I got hit in the head, right? And it's not to make fun of it, but it's happened so much that we kind of make a joke about it, right? But the reality is, she was at death's door, right? And so was my aunt. And then we later found out he said that he wanted to actually go and um, kill the entire family. He wanted to take us all out. Hey Mar, and yeah, that's my god brother, and he was there. He was there to help us clean up the house, and it was a sight. It was a sight to see. Later on during the trial, I actually found the brick because he tried to hide the brick. He hid it under the sofa bed. Hey Jackie, thank you so much for joining in. He hid the brick under the sofa bed, and I found it one day. And then he took a plea bargain. He only did 7 years for wanting to kill my whole family. And that was my introduction to domestic violence. And so years later, I then experienced it firsthand when wait, let me go back. I had just started college. I was going to BMCC, and I was trying to concentrate, literally trying to concentrate on everything. But every time I saw the blackboard, that's how old it was. It was a long time ago. 2003, actually, not 2013, sorry, 2003. So this actually has made 20 years that that incident had taken place. And so every time I would look at the blackboard, all I could see was blood, like splash across the blackboard, right? And I would literally, in the middle of class, get up and walk out. And I I really couldn't focus. And so I ended up dropping out of college that time. And so years later, I ended up meeting my now ex-husband. Thank you, Kalicia. I really appreciate it. And hey, Apostle Brads. I uh so back in I met him when I was 22-ish. Yeah, I had to have been 22. I met him online at that. I met him on MySpace. Y'all remember MySpace? I know I'm aging myself. Um, hey Sherrod. I met him on MySpace. Anybody remembers MySpace? Look, I'm a millennial, but I'm kind of the older millennials. So I met him on MySpace, and he wrote this really nice letter to me, and I fell for it. I fell for it. Right, Damien. Right, Jackie. MySpace. That's when you had to be everybody's top 5, top 10, or you could extend it to top 20. And if you wasn't somebody's top 5, they would be mad at you or whatever. Y'all remember that? I don't even know if it exists now, but I met him there, and he wrote me something really nice. Right, Sharice? It was serious. It was serious. You have to be like top 5, top 10, or you was getting a message or a phone call, or we wasn't friends anymore, or whatever. So petty. But he wrote me something really, really nice. And I was like, "Oh, like who is this?" It was a nice poem. It was it was just really nice, and it was something I never experienced before. So I fell for it, right? Why? Go figure, child, go figure. But I did. And so we started a relationship. We started talking. Back then there was no FaceTime. I don't think no, there was no FaceTime back then. There was Yahoo Messenger, but I don't even think I did that. Um and the first time we got into it, he was from a different county in New York. He was like from upstate. And so he drove all the way down to the Bronx, and I fell asleep because it was late at night. I was tired. And so I tried to stay up, but I was tired. He came all the way down. I fell asleep, and he left me the only voicemail, the only text message, just cussing me completely out. Something I wasn't accustomed to. Like, who you? You got nerve, sir. And I don't know why I felt like I needed to hash it out and, just deal with it and just try to get over it and just, let's see if it works or whatever. And so we dealt with that, and we kept on going. And then what I know now as the verbal abuse started, right? And then the emotional abuse started. Emotional psychological abuse, right? The you're not cute, but only to me, and I'm the only one that'll want you. That kind of stuff. Now, I'm a supermodel, but I ain't ugly. Like in no way, shape, or form. I ain't ugly. Never. Never have been, never will be. But that's what he made me feel like. He made me feel like he was the only one that would want me. And so that was the entryway for the physical abuse. And so one night, a group of my friends that we all grew up in church with, growing up in church, they wasn't really friends. It was more like everybody was family. You god brother, god sister, cousin, auntie, grandma, nana, whatever. The whole church was your family, right? And so they came over my house, and we was all reminiscing. Y'all know us church kids, we all get together, we start reminiscing about the good old days in church. And so we was reminiscing, and we started just, singing and talking. And he was out in the car just not wanting to come in. And I'm like, I want to introduce you to this is my family. I want to introduce you to them. And he didn't want to. He didn't want to come. No. And he was just judging them. It was just really nasty. And we got into an argument over why he didn't want to come into the house. I'm like, it doesn't make any sense to me. So we're arguing, and the argument led to a like almost like a tussle because I was like, yo, just come out the car. That was wrong on my end, right? Don't force somebody to do something they don't want to do. Just leave it. They're lost. Keep it moving. But I didn't know that at the time. So we're like tussling. I'm trying to say, come out the car, come out the car. He didn't want to. Next thing you know, he pulled out the his keychains. I'm like, what are you about to do with your keys? Like it's nothing to do. And he in the keychain, the nail clipper, the middle part has a emery board. And so he flipped out the emery board. I'm like, yo, what's wrong with you? Next thing I know, all I'm doing is feeling like little burning sensations. And so he's actually stabbing me in my chest, in my stomach, in my back with the little emery board. And that thing isn't even like really sharp. It's actually kind of dull. But he's stabbing me and stabbing me. And I'm in shock because nothing like this has ever happened to me ever in my life. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't scream. I didn't want to make a scene, but I went in my house and then I went straight in the bathroom. Like I didn't know what else to do. I went in the bathroom and I did one of those nasty silent screams, and I took peroxide or alcohol, whatever one I had in the bathroom at the moment, and I just started cleaning myself off silently. I didn't want to cause a scene. And then when I came out the bathroom to go back with my friends and my family, guess who was there? The person I didn't want to be there to begin with. He showed up. He came up the stairs, came into the house, act as if nothing ever happened, and even had the nerve to pray for everybody. So that was my first experience, first-handed, with domestic violence. Um, I have literally been through, um, yeah, Apostle Brass. That's first. That was the first one. Um, and so after that, um, like I said, there's so many different forms of abuse. There's so many. You have the emotional, the verbal, the psychological, you have financial, you have physical, you have sexual, you have spiritual abuse, something that no one loves to ever talk about. And so my podcast, the Talking with Tasja podcast, is going to be the podcast where we talk about topics that the church tries to avoid talking about. That's the purpose of this podcast. Sometimes the topics are going to be heavy, sometimes they're going to be a little bit lighter and with humor, but I really want us to be free. I really want us to be healed. I really want us to be whole. And so that's the purpose of this podcast. Um, thank you, Kalicia. The taboo topics of the church. And so that's what I'm here for. Thank you, Elder Cox, for showing up tonight. I really appreciate it. Um, the I'm gonna tap into some topics some people may not feel comfortable with. It's okay, but that's what I'm here for, right? So before I got married, um, I was living with my ex-husband. I was living with him before we got married. Had no business doing it. Let me be clear. Let me be clear. Had no business living with somebody who is not my husband. Okay? Let me be clear. Um, yes, love. That absolutely. Um, thank you, Tyrone. I really appreciate all the love in the comments tonight. I really love you guys for this. Um, yes, Apostle Brass, God definitely wants to get to the root of these things. Because how else are we gonna get healed? We too many times us in the church, and I'm gonna say us because I've been a part of it. We cover up. We come to church, we preach, we shout, we run around the church, we sing, we prophesy, we play, um, over hurt, over the things that we have yet to be healed from. And so it's time for us to get to the root cause, to the hurt of it all, and then seek help. There's nothing wrong with prayer and therapy. Nothing wrong with it. Nothing at all. Nothing wrong with it. Some of y'all need scripture. Some of y'all need a scripture and a prescription. Let me know if I froze, because I kind of froze on my end. I was saying some people need a scripture and a prescription. Y'all need more than a couch. Y'all need a pill. Um, but um, And it's time that we take the stigma off of therapy, especially in the Black community, right? In the church community. We have so many people um, with battling mental health, and they really could have been helped a long, long time ago if they would have just addressed the issue. And so that's what Talking with Tasha is about. So back to my experience. I don't say it's a story. I say it's an experience because for me, stories are fictitious. And this is not fake at all. This is my life and what I've gone through. Um, so like I said, I was living with my ex-husband. And let's be honest, if you know you living with somebody you ain't got no business living with and you're attracted to them, y'all sleeping in the same bed, stuff gonna happen, right? Let's just keep it a buck, right? And so the reality is some of the time when intimacy had taken place, it wasn't because I was attracted to him. It was because I was afraid that if I didn't, my life would be in danger. That's where sexual abuse comes in. Sexual abuse is not just sexual abuse is not just rape. It's not just molestation. It's also when you're fearful for your life, and so you do things that you don't want to do, and some of those things are a sexual act, even if it's with an intimate partner. And so a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people think that, oh, that woman or that man is doing something because they just in a mood. No, they're not. They're doing it because they're fearful of their lives. And if they don't give that person what they want, they're afraid that they're not going to make it to see another day. And so sometimes for me, that was the case. Mind you, later on, I addressed the issue that I was raped at a younger age and that I was molested at a younger age before I ever, um, yes, Apostle Brads, it's called survival sex. And a lot of people don't understand it, but it does exist. And so for me, that's where sexual abuse came in that relationship. Um, I've gone through, like I said, I've been through every form of abuse possible, right? And I'm gonna try to talk about most of it tonight, but whatever I don't talk about tonight, um, thank you so much, Pastor Emily. I really appreciate that. And thank you for, sharing that part. Um, but what I can't speak about tonight, don't worry, next week it's gonna be a part two, okay? Um, another another form of abuse is financial abuse. And it's something that a lot of people don't talk about. They think it's for rich people when it comes to spending money without your significant others, not necessarily approval, but just without them even knowing about it, that affects the entire family or the couple. For me, this is how it looked. I worked. I got paid every 2 weeks. I was told to give the majority of my check to him because he was going to pay the bills. The bills. Never got paid on time, like ever. So, um, cable was always off. Always, child, always. Cell phones, always off. Rent, always late. Where's my money going? Um, and then I gave you the majority of my check. You gave me maybe $50 for 2 weeks. Now, this might have been over 10 years ago, but $50 for 2 weeks in New York City, not really cutting it. Um, and so that uh $50 for 2 weeks, and then in the middle of the first week, asked to have 20 other dollars back for gas. Because, oh, let me say this part. I was isolated from my family. I was raised in the Bronx. I moved all the way across the pond to Jersey. I ain't got no family in Jersey. I don't know nobody in Jersey. I ain't got no reason to move to Jersey. Why are you moving me to Jersey? And in my ignorance, now this is for the young women. I'm gonna help you out real quick. I was so fiending to be married by 25. I was so fiending to leave my mother's house because I didn't want to do what she asked. I wanted to be out on my own. I thought I was super, super grown and all of that good stuff. So the moment I had the chance to get up and move, I did. And that move led me through so much hell. Living across that bridge. First of all, it cost too much because both of us worked in New York. So that's the GW every single day, twice a day. That's first of all. Second of all, I had nobody in Jersey I could run to. Nobody. And so it was a lot. So for anybody, if you're young, you think you grown, somebody's offering to take you out your mama's house, and something in your spirit don't feel right, run with that. Run with it and run with it quickly because it's going to end up being a story that you really probably don't want to tell. So, back to financial abuse. Um the check would be the most of the money in my check would be taken. But bills weren't paid on time. Of course we went to church, right? I mean, of course. Um and so I would need, like, if y'all know me, I've always liked to look cute for church, especially for church. That's how I was raised, right? Um, and I would always, just want a nice little outfit, nothing crazy. I didn't even know about getting things customized and custom made back then. I would go to Burlington, right? And Burlington used to have these cute Sahari suits for like $40. And I would be okay with it. I was trying to look like an extra grown, woman with the church suits. And if you're a real church girl, you went through your church suit phase, right? And so if you could if you can understand that, just let me know in the comments. All real church girls had a church suit phase, right? Um, and so I love Tahari. I was a Tahari fan. And Tahari at Burlington Coat Factory was only $40. And I was like, okay, this is a good deal. But here goes the side part, right? So of course you buy a new outfit. You want some shoes to go with it, cute shoes. And you still on your suit phase. No, I got delivered. I got delivered from that part. But I I wanted some cute shoes to go with my outfits. And he would take me to the $5 shoe store. There was a $5 shoe store in that part of Jersey, walking distance from my house. And that's where I would go for my shoes. No shade to the $5 shoe store, but listen to this. My outfit is $40. My shoes are 5 or 10. You take our rent money or bill money and put it towards a Madden game. Madden. PS, whatever it was, or Xbox, I think it was, and then go and buy your expensive shirts or your expensive shoes. And from my knowledge, the man is supposed to make sure that the woman is well taken care of. And from my knowledge, a $5 shoe store is not well taken care of. I'm just saying, right? To each his own. But that just didn't sit right with me when your games cost more than the things that I wore, and bills weren't paid, and you was taking my checks all the time, and we had to rob everybody to pay nobody. I was just confused about all of that stuff. It was just very confusing to me. Um, and so the financial instability was mind boggling, just mind boggling. But I was supposed to let him pay the bills because he the man of the house, whatever. Um, and so that level of financial instability was just ridiculous for me, which would also lead to more altercations, right? And so altercations such as my mother's her 40th birthday, right? 40th? Yeah, I think it was her 40th. Yeah, maybe her 40th or 50th birthday. I don't remember which one. She finally answered the call to ministry. And so her initial sermon was literally on her birthday. Of course, it's monumental, and the family was going to be there. But that morning was the morning I begged God to kill me, begged him. I no longer wanted to live. I had no desire to live. If it was up to me, I would not be here today, based off of what transpired that morning. And so we did not, um, we didn't go to church because my mom's church was in Brooklyn and we lived in Jersey, and our church was in Rockland County. So the commute, we wasn't going to be able to make it back to Brooklyn in time for the service. And of course, I wasn't missing the service for nothing. It's my mama. And so it was already understood that we're going to the service. We didn't go to church, so we go to my mom's church. And last minute, he said, I'm not going. And I was like, what are you talking about? You're not going. Mind you, this is also, let me be clear, this is 3 months before our wedding. So people already know that we're getting married, right? So, when people know you're getting married and it's a family event, you need to go there, come, show your face as a family. Um, he didn't want to go. And I was very offended by it because this is also my same mother who allowed you, her and my grandmother allowed you to stay in our house when you needed somewhere to live, right? And so, in a sense, you owe it to her to be there, especially if you're marrying her only daughter and her oldest child. And so, of course, we're arguing about it, and I'm pissed because you're supposed to be driving. Mind you, I have a license, but you're supposed to be driving. Like, let's go to Brooklyn. Let's like put all this mess aside. Let's just go. And so the arguing led into the pushing and the shoving. The pushing and the shoving led into me being pinned in the kitchen. It was a very open space, but I was pinned in the kitchen. And next thing you know, I don't know how it happened. I don't know where it came from, but there was a combination lock. There was a combination lock in his hand. And only thing I remember was I was on the kitchen floor taking blow for blow because the lock was in his fist and he was hitting me in my rib cage with it. And I literally was like, God, I don't want this. If this is life, you can take it. Um, I don't understand the point of life at this point. And the only thing I could envision at that moment was my mother getting a phone call that her oldest child, her only daughter, died on her birthday. And so that was that for me was that was too much. And that's when I begged God. That's when I begged God to kill me. And then after all of it, um, then he agreed to go to the church. Then he agreed to make it to my mother's service. And so we went, acted as if nothing ever happened. Um, then they asked my brother and I, my mother's only two children, to be the MCs of the service. And we didn't even know, right? So I go to the church and I wasn't even dressed up yet. I just bought change of clothes with me because at that point I had changed my clothes. I was like, I was just out of it. Like my mind was gone. And so we get there. They asked us to be the MC. And of course, like, I don't know if for church people, you already know that if you're going through something, but they ask you to do something in the church, what do? Suck it up, put your best face forward, and you execute, right? And so that's exactly what happened until the praise break. I was in pain the whole service, took no medicine, took no pills, and then the praise break happened. And it was me, my mother, and my brother shouting together. And I don't think anybody could ever remember, but I'm holding my side the entire time while my other arm is wrapped around my mother and my brother, just, shouting. And I'm honestly, that was the fakest shout I probably ever had in my whole entire life. In the history of me being Natasha Sharice Allen, I have never faked a praise ever, except for that time. And of course, I didn't want to cause a scene or whatever. And so um, I still didn't tell my family. Nobody knew. But for the next 3 months after that, every time I turned to the right, all I heard was an internal clicking sound. Like I literally heard a every time I turned. And so I couldn't turn to the right. If I had to turn to the right, my entire body had to move without my waist really turning, right? And I never went to the hospital, but looking it up and speaking to medical professionals, you can come to the conclusion that my ribs were fractured in some way, shape, or form. And so I dealt with that for 3 years. I mean, 3 months, and the constant verbal abuse, the constant being afraid to just leave, right? Not telling anyone. And there were times where he was so mad that he locked me out of the apartment. I um, I slept in the car maybe twice overnight. Um, and I was still dumb enough, and I can say that about myself. Nobody Nobody else could say that about me. I could talk about me. I still married him because the situation with my mother happened 3 months before we got married. And on my wedding day, I will say this, and it's something I've never experienced ever again in my life so far. On my wedding day, that was the first time I ever felt my spirit and my flesh literally fight itself. Literally. If there are people who are watching and they were at my wedding, I choked, literally choked on my wedding vows. And people thought I was crying. I People thought I choked up because I was crying, and it was like the whole audience was like, "Oh, that's so nice." And in my head, I'm like, "What are y'all stupid? Are you dumb? Ain't nobody tapped into none of this. Can't nobody feel this? I'm not supposed to be doing this, right?" But my flesh and my spirit were battling itself, and my spirit would not allow me to literally, clearly utter out those vows. I was choking on my wedding vows. And you know, just just the people. Just that's so beautiful. And it wasn't. It I've never experienced that ever in my life again. And I pray I never have to. But that's when God really, he's like, I don't want you to do this, but because of free will, he still allows you to do it, right? And my honeymoon lasted all of a day and a half. There was peace for my new marriage all of a day and a half, and then we argued over money. Um, and then, of course, the cycle, peace, and then there's the altercation. And then after the altercation, there's the whole phase of, you're scared of retaliation or not. And then there's the forgiving, and then there's the peace all over again. It's just a cycle. It's a ongoing cycle until somebody breaks it. So after we're married, of course, the abuse never stopped. It just came in longer cycles. Um, there were times where he we got into bad arguments, and he threw hot tea and coffee at me in the street. Thank God nothing ever burned me. Um, there were times where I was trying to leave at times. I would try to run away, and he would twist my fingers with my wedding ring on it to a point where it would like literally cut my skin. Um, like I said, I slept in the car. He would lock me out of the apartment. He would Just the whole verbal part of it was just sometimes where you can't take words back. Like not sometimes, but you can't take your words back, right? And so with that, it's literally God and therapy that have helped me heal from the words that have been spoken over me. And then the last altercation happened. So I left. I did leave. I left more than once. The first time I left, he uh he found the bag I hid, right? I told his sister, I was like, yo, I'm tired of this. I can't do this no more. And she was like, what happened? So I started telling her the things that he did. And she was like, what? Are you serious? No, leave. Just hide a bag under the bed or hide a bag in the back of the closet. And then tonight, in the middle of the night, just while he's sleeping, just get the bag and just go. So that's what I was going to do. So I was outside just talking, and I came back in the house, and he found the bag. And we had church that night. Of course, I wasn't planning on going to church. I was trying to leave. And with that, he um, he was like, "Please, let's go to church. Let's go to church." Um, Mind you, I think it was the day before we had an altercation, and part of it was my fault because I wouldn't let him leave after we was having an argument. He was saying he wanted to go, and I was like, "No, we're gonna sit here. We're gonna hash this out, and we're gonna just deal with this." That was in my ignorance. That was in, yeah. I should have just let the man go, right? And then with that, I end up getting like bruised and scratched on my legs from a shopping cart that he pushed on me, or something like that. But it was fresh and it was still bleeding, right? So the next day when we went to church and I finally started telling them what was happening and why I wanted to leave, they wouldn't believe me. Now, when it came to the whole church aspect, um, nobody would know that at the time I was on the praise team and they started asking me to lead praise and worship. Don't ask me why. I didn't ask for it. Um, and I would get cussed out on the way to church and then have to go to church and lead the people up into high worship. And then on the way home, get cussed right back out. But this the man y'all defended, right? And so when that night happened, I told the church what was going on. And I was like, no, I'm tired. I went out and he made it into a really big thing. And what he did while I was explaining my situation to the pastors or whatever, he went in my pocketbook, took my debit card, had somebody drive him to the closest ATM machine, and basically took my whole check. He left me with like $150. And the app that I used for my the card, it's like one of those rush cards. If anybody remember the rush cards, you would be able to get text message for every transaction that took place. And it popped up on my phone when he did it. And I'm like, well, who went in my pocketbook and took my money? And he did. He said, well, you said you was doing your part of the rent and blah, 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 blah. And he did this in front of the church folk. And they had his back. And so um that can also lead to trauma from the church, right? And I'm showing them the scars, and I'm showing them the abuses, and bruises, and I'm showing them everything. And they took his side. And so that was the first time I left. I called my mother, I called my brother, and they met me at my house in Jersey. And I just took whatever. I was just taking stuff. I literally was taking whatever. I think I took the TV. I took whatever I felt like taking that night. And I went back to my mom's house. Um, Here goes where spiritual abuse starts tying into what I went through. I was told to not go home to my family. Now, mind you, the whole family is saved. Like everybody in that house is saved. Everybody in that house is operating in ministry, right? In some capacity. I was told not to go home to my family, but instead to stay with somebody at the church. Um, I don't know what kind of family people come from, but my family is the type of family that everybody runs to when they're in trouble. Everybody comes to my house to spend the night when there's trouble going on. Why I can't go home? And you telling me to stay with these church folk? I don't even talk to these church folk like that. I don't trust them. And you gonna tell me stay with them and not go to my family? Yeah, that's a no. And if I were to be very honest, from the outside looking in now, kind of cultish, right? Um, and so with that, I I went home and this is where the mental instability comes in when you're accustomed to trauma, right? So at this point, I've been going through abuse for about 4 years. So at this point, abuse has become my norm, right? The dysfunction of arguing, the dysfunction of physical altercations, the dysfunction of financial instability, the dysfunction of survival sex. All of this stuff has become my norm over the course of 4 years. And so when I went back to my mother's house, it felt weird, right? It didn't feel like this was my regular life. I went to work, fine. I, did whatever I could do to survive, fine. But it didn't feel like my normality. And so I ended up going back to my ex-husband. And with that, of course, nothing stopped, right? But what started to happen for me was I then started telling people slowly, like I created fake email accounts and I started telling people via email what I was going through. And then I would run away on some weekends, lie and say I was with a best friend and I wasn't. I was being trifling. I'm gonna be honest, I was being trifling. And this is when a person can become so desperate for help and desperate for a way out that they go and do things they shouldn't be doing, right? And so I would run away on weekends to another state, to someone I had no business running to. And so I ended up cheating on my ex-husband. I'll own it. Talk about me if you want. I don't care. I'm free from it. So you could judge your mama. I don't care if you judge me. Um, I did it. I own it. And if I were to be very honest with you, and here comes full transparency, and y'all could say it, talk about me what you want. Y'all can run me through the mud off of this what you want. I don't care. I'm free from it. I'm not mad that I cheated on my ex-husband. I'm mad that I broke my covenant with God. That's the only thing I'm really mad about when it comes to what I did. Um, and so that's my truth. Um, that's a conversation that me and God have. But I'm gonna be honest about it. I'm mad about the covenant I broke, God, not what I did with against him. No, not at all. Be honest. I may not care. I don't care. Yeah, I really don't care. Um, and so with that, here goes another level of him now playing the victim. He didn't catch me cheating. I confessed. I owned it because I didn't care anymore. Right. And so I told him because I wanted out again. And what he did um, was very interesting. And the church's response to it is even more interesting. So I'm gonna tell you what happened. I told him what I did. He calls our counselors because we were given counselors in the church. Calls them and tells them this is what Tasja did, and drama, 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 victim mentality, victim mentality. Um, thank you, Tyrone. This is freedom, absolutely. And he tells them, and the pastor then calls a meeting. It got serious, right? Here goes the trauma for me in all of this. Is the pastor a female? The assistant pastor, another female. They're completely like out of the scenario. They're just sitting there. It's me, my counselor, him, his counselor, and all of the male ministers of the church in my marital meeting. Why do all of the male ministers in the church need to be in a meeting about my marriage? But you did not bring all of the female ministers of the church to be on my side. And so in that meeting, after they already found out that he was abusive, my indiscretion was taken higher than him trying to kill me multiple times. Okay, okay. Um, and I'm telling you, I was so dumb back then. I'll be very honest with you. At that point, this guy does not like women. Well, pastor was a woman. Um, and so that um that situation in and of itself, um, thank you, Karen. I'm definitely free from this. Next month, I think, makes 10 years. Hallelujah to Jesus. Gloria a Dios. Um, I I really could have hated the church strictly off of that. And when I say scripture was used at the highest level of manipulation to try to keep me to stay, when I said I was really leaving, like I'm gone, I was told by one of the pastors or whatever, well, the Lord would not tell me to mentor you if he told you to leave. You can mentor me over the phone. You can mentor me via email. You can mentor me across continents. I don't have to be in the same church as you for you to mentor me. If that really is in fact what it is that you want to do. Like that wasn't working because I felt like the prodigal son towards the end of my marriage. I came to myself. Tasja came back, right? And once I came back, it was it. Like, if you know the old me, I always got in trouble for speaking, like just for saying my opinion, speaking how I wanted to speak. My mother always popped me in the head in church because I was always talking. I always got in trouble in school because I was telling the teacher what they was doing wrong, like all of that stuff. And when I say that Tasha came back towards the end of that marriage, I care if not. I I don't know what happened, but I got a boost of act right, and I came back to myself. And I looked at that in her face. I was like, no, absolutely not. And I will never say that God told me to leave that church. The hatred I have for my ex-husband, I refuse to get up and minister to God's people and hate the man that's sitting over there in that corner. No, I'm not doing it. And I have the right to leave. And so I got up and I left. And I had the right to do so. And I don't regret it. Ever. Ever to ever. And so they was trying to make me feel bad for leaving. And here goes the whole stay with somebody in the church, but don't go back to your family again. Please. Like seriously, go somewhere with that. I was done. I was so done. And the last altercation, the last altercation did it. Did it and did it good. It sealed all the nails in the coffin, never to be resurrected again. Back then, I was a lunch lady. For those of you who did not know, I was a lunch lady at school for about 4 years, right? And That's my exercise alarm. Um, 4 years I was in a school. God bless. I know she may never see this, but if Miss Crespo ever sees this, I love you to my core. That lady, she's an old Spanish lady, and she was there with me through it all. Miss Crespo and Natasha, my two coworkers, they was there with me through it all, right? And so the last altercation, I was working for the church's vacation Bible school. And so naturally I would do like the food. I'll do the breakfast, do the lunch, cook for the kids, blah blah blah. And so I they would normally pick me up. He would drop me off at the mall. They would pick me up, bring me to the church, and then he would come to the church, pick me up, and we would go home. Nothing crazy. That's it is what it is. Then this one day, um, he we got the phone call. They can't pick me up. His words were, "Well, he's not taking me to the church." The church was only 10 minutes away from the mall. Like it's not that complicated. And so he wouldn't do it. And so I'm mad. I'm like, yo, just take me to the church. Like it's the church, it's the kids, all the kids that go around loving on us every week or whatever. Take me to the church. No, I'm not taking you. Literally drops me off at the mall. Now, remember I told you the financial instability was crazy? Yeah, both of our phones were off. The only phone he had was his job phone. Um, I had no money because, of course, he took it, right? So in Rockland County, you could take buses, but then the bus schedule's retarded. Then you still got to walk about 10 minutes after the bus stop. It's just, y'all got to fix that in Rockland because y'all need help. But um, he wouldn't do it. And I had no money to take the bus. And this is early in the morning. The mall's not even open yet. That's how early it is, right? And so I'm just crying because I'm like, God, I don't know what I'm about to do. This man is just acting like Boo Boo the Fool. And he pulls off and it's like halfway in the parking lot and stops. So I ran to the car and tried to jump in the car. And I got in the car. I'm like, yo, just take me to the church. No, I'm going to work. I said, fine. If you go to work, go to work. I'll drop you off. Take the car. That was registered in my name. Let's be clear about that. Take the car, go to the church, leave the church earlier, go pick you up from work, right? And we just gonna make it work. Like that's all it is. Only cared about taking care of my responsibility at the church for the sake of the kids. No, like we get into a big altercation. But he pulls off driving. So I was like, fine, you drive to work, drop you off, I'm gonna come back to the church. We're in Rockland County approaching the Tappan Zee Bridge. Back then it was the Tappan Zee, now it's the Como Bridge or whatever. And he I forgot what he did. Oh, I don't know how it happened, but he found a way to open up my door, unbuckle my seatbelt, and try to push me out the door in the middle of the morning rush hour traffic leading up to the Tappan Zee Bridge. If you know anything about that kind of traffic, it's retarded. It's like the FDR, the West Side Highway in New York. It's like Atlantic Avenue in Brooklyn. It's like Jamaica Avenue in Queens. It's like the belt. It's just horrible, right? So he's trying to push me out the car on the highway in the middle of morning rush hour traffic, and I blacked out. I blacked. I don't recall ever blacking out in my life except for this one encounter because now I see the only thing I can see is myself falling out the car, being ran over by cars, and me dying, right? And so Yeah, yeah. I'm not denying anything at that point. Um, and I blacked out. And what I did was I took my fist while he was driving and I clocked him upside the head. That Bronx chick came all the way out. I'm not a fighter. I don't fight. Um, but if I had to, I'm going for blood, right? And so I I clocked him upside the head while he's driving. Now that's stupid of me because he's still driving, so he could have swerved and hit other cars or whatever. Me hitting him, of course, made him get even worse. Drove off of the highway into an abandoned gas station, dragged me out the car, and beat me in my head in broad daylight. Like, had no care in the world who was seeing, did not care. Um, and a lot of people don't know, but the hearing in my right ear is still affected by it because I don't hear as well in my right ear than my left. So 10 plus years later, I'm still affected, right? And so I'm screaming, top of my lungs, screaming, somebody help. At that point, I don't care. I just went out again. I'm just like, help, help, help. And he then realizes that I'm like literally at the top of my lungs, like going hoarse, screaming, but he's still hitting. And I don't know what made him come back to reality, but he stopped. He picked me up and put me in the car, closed the door, and he drove me to Nyack Hospital. Literally, drove right to Nyack Hospital. And my words to him were this: if I go in there, you're going to jail. And he pulled right off. And guess where he took me? Guess where he took me? He took me to the place where I asked him to initially take me, to the church. So I get to the church. He should miscarry. um he took me to the church and I get in the church and they're like, Tasha, what's going on? I'm like, no, nothing, everything's fine. I'm still, I didn't want people in my business, even though in my mind I was on my way out, right? Um, because at that point I didn't trust that church. I didn't trust the people. I didn't trust anybody. I was just out. And I went in the bathroom, started cleaning up, and it was like, Tasha, you have scratches on your neck. What's wrong? What happened? And I was like, oh, I must have scratched myself in my sleep. I don't know, child. So I just went to the bathroom, took some tissue, cleaned myself up, and proceeded as if nothing ever happened. But I was in pain and my ear was ringing. And I had a humongously horrible headache for maybe 3 days in a row. Right. And so that was the last thing, the last physical altercation he ever, the last chance he ever had touching me. And so with that, that is the reason why No More Secrets was born. That is the reason why now Talking with Tasha podcast is here, because I want to be able to talk about the taboo topics that the church refuses to talk about, that the church refuses to address. I'm not talking about all the same topics. Everybody, there's a million podcasts out there, first of all. Let me be clear. So I want to thank those who have been on for over the hour. I really appreciate you guys. I love you guys so much. Thank you for all the comments. Thank you for all of the support, the hearts, everything. Just thank you. Um, And just keep me in prayer. This is a leap. It's a humongous leap for me. But during the month of October, I'm going to be talking about. Um, Thank you, Apostle, for staying in there the whole time. I appreciate it. Um, During October, I'm going to be talking about different types of abuse. So we have a special one coming up, especially towards the end of the month. Something I don't think I've seen out there yet. Um, and then next month we're gonna take it a little bit lighter. We're gonna be a little bit lighter with it. But during October, I really want to acknowledge those who have gone through it, who have experienced it. And then I also want to honor those who have unfortunately transitioned by the hands of their abuser. I am grateful that my name is not on that list. However, I want to honor those who are. I want to honor their families who have been affected because abuse does not just affect the person, but it affects their family as well. And so I want to honor them throughout the month of October. If you personally have gone through any form of abuse and you want to be able to share your experience, uh, feel free to contact me. I would love to have you on the show during the month of October. Or if you know of a family that has unfortunately gone through this, um, definitely send me their information. I want to be able to honor their loved one as well. So again, thank you all. I love you all so so much. If you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, I'm really close to be able to start monetizing. Let me make some off of the YouTube channel. I need 500 subscribers and I'm at 448. So I need y'all to help a sister out. I'm gonna put up the link after all this is done, and just go over to YouTube and subscribe for me. Okay. Thank you so much. Love you all. Have an amazing night. Deuces.